allow ourselves to let go of the week, let go of any stress or worries, or any aches or pains, or any negativity. Allow yourself to find your breath and use your exhale to just let go and allow the sounds to come in and penetrate your body, your aura, and use your inhale to breathe in the sound and the vibration.
Taking several deep cleansing breaths, doing a triple intake. Showing yourself a moment of gratitude for keeping your divine appointment, for being here today. Feeling your energy flow. And just relaxing. Feeling your heart space open. Feeling the spine arch a little bit. Tucking the chin, which opens your crown chakra to the ethers. Sensing and recognizing all of your chakra centers open, clear and bright. Beginning with the bottom of the Kundalini, the root chakra. Going up to the sacral, the solar plexus, and the heart, and the throat, and the third eye, and the crown. Seeing the consecutive colors of red and orange, yellow, green, sky blue, indigo blue, and violet. See the energy flowing through you and from you in all directions. Feeling the center of your heart space open with light bursting like a supernova in all directions. See, hear, feel, and sense the energy from this heart space going all the way down your body, leaving your feet, penetrating, going deep into Mother Earth. Feel, hear, sense, and know that energy going all the way to the core, the center of the earth, to the black crystalline structure that represents the energy of the earth. Feel, hear, know, and sense yourself grounding, wrapping your energy around this dark crystal. As you ground and confirm the beautiful relationship with your existence here on earth. Connecting, communing, recognizing the abundance that the earth provides for our species here and all species, all life forms, all organisms, those that we see and those that we don't see. Feeling that energy coming back up through the earth and into your feet. And as the energy comes back up into your body, feeling a huge source of gratitude and appreciation for the abundance of the earth. Recognizing, acknowledging, and thanking the earth for the food that we eat, the air that we breathe, the water we drink, the shelter over our heads, and remembering that we live an abundant life, that everything we need is right here at our fingertips. Feeling that energy coming all the way back up into your heart space, and now continuing upwards and upwards and going out of the top of your head and into the ethers, beyond our galaxy, beyond our star system, going deep into the farthest reaches of all the galaxies, recognizing that simultaneously while we exist here on Earth, so do we also reach into the ethers. And our mind, our higher self, our soul, is that bridge between the ethers and Earth, the heavens and the ground. We are the bridge, we are the yin and the yang that connects everything. So that we simultaneously exist in all paradigms, all space, all time, all dimensions. Coming back into your headspace and going into your heart. And I recognize this energy going out in all 360 directions. We first went down, then we went up in vertical fashion. Now we're going out in horizontal fashion. See this beautiful light in your heart space. spreading out from your body into your neighbors, into everyone in this building, into this city, this state, this world, and see this heart space energy from you embracing and hugging every single being on earth, knowing that your heart space, this energy of you, can and does expand this far and this easily. Recognizing the power of our heart spaces, seeing us connect to everyone and everything. This is our true being. This is the validity of our magnificence. This is universal truth. We are beings of light. We are crystalline beings. Taking this knowledge in and calling in your guides, your guardian angels, your ascended masters, your teachers, here on earth and those in the ethers. Anyone who inspires you personally, either as a permanent lifetime companion or someone who visits you from time to time or from reason to reason. Calling in that energy now to guide you and help you set intentions for the day and for the week and for your life mission, that you always see clearly, have all of the truths revealed to you as you are ready for them, one by one. Some people call these lessons the universal truth, would have us prefer to see them simply as revelations, things that are revealed to us day by day, moment by moment. Being in the now, being present, there is only now. We are resonant crystalline beings living in the now, and so it is. Taking this truth in, and very slowly, very gradually, very peacefully coming back to the room. Welcome everybody. It's so interesting. Our crowd shifts every week. Sometimes we have all the regulars here and very little new people, and sometimes lots of new people and very few regulars. And whoever is here is meant to be here to hear whatever is passing with us today. Thank you, Seth, for your beautiful didgeridoo and your sound healing voice of pleasure. Enjoy as usual. And our guest speaker today is Ester Adler, and she's going to be talking to us. Forgive me, I have a head cold. I know your topic, I just can't think of it.
Stepping into your power.
Stepping into your power. Thank you. So, I'm eating crow today. Yes, Ron thinks it's very funny. I've, since the first of the year, I've been burning the midnight oil, and been taking these doTERRA essential oils and their vitamins and their chocolate shakes for breakfast. And I've always known that when you take supplements, if you're taking the right amount, the right kind, with the highest quality for what your needs are, you will feel a huge shift when you take them. And if you take vitamins or supplements and you don't feel anything, then it's not the right one, or it's not the right amount, or you don't need it, or it's not a good quality. And I felt this huge burst of energy when I started taking these doTERRA vitamin supplements, and so I got a little over-ambitious, and I've been working like there's been no tomorrow. And I've been writing manuals in the morning and coming to work during the day and doing the evening events, and on my quote days off, I've been writing manuals too, so I've been going. And in this course that I'm teaching on Tuesday nights called Conscious Anatomy, we're delving into the beauty of the mind and the body and how truly connected they are in all space and all time and all dimension, and that every thought that you think resonates with the body. And that illnesses are not random, we're not statistics, and any kind of accidents, inherited birth disorders, or any kind of illnesses that come our way, in some way, shape, or form, are there imprinted into our DNA, which comes from our mindset. And on Tuesday, I was reading this one passage that when you get a cold or any kind of illness that slows you down, it's because you've been overworking. And as I read that passage, I said, I never get a cold. I haven't had a cold in 5 years. The next day, I got a cold. And that's my body's way of saying, you've been working too hard and you're not slowing down. So Wednesday I felt it coming on, and I actually got dizzy. I was standing in my office doorway and got dizzy and had to hold on to the threshold. And I took the bathroom key, and instead of walking out the front door and then putting the key in the ladies' room, I stuck the key in the front door. And Tanya just looked at me and I said, I'm officially out of it. I clearly need to go home. So she cleared my schedule for a couple of days, and I took Thursday, Friday, and Saturday off. And I've been talking to my body and saying, okay, I promise I'll get some rest. And my body went, no. And it keeps sending the message, you're tired, you're tired, you're tired. So I've been doing nothing but resting. Your body keeps track. There's a time bank. If you don't get the rest that you need, or we don't get the rest that we need, our bodies will call that debt in. And it has a sleep bank, and your body actually knows if you're getting the amount of rest that you need, and the right vitamins, and if you're not, it'll put the brakes on. So my body put the brakes on me today. I know there's no cold going around. I know if nobody else has a cold, there isn't a virus going around. I got this because I need to rest. So my topic today is about possibilities. Keeping our mind open to possibilities. And as I started teaching this conscious anatomy class, it reminded me of the depths of the connection between our thoughts and the world around us. And it's not just our bodies are one part of it, but the people that show up in front of us, our very creation, everything about our world is about our thoughts. So the most important thing to me is keeping your thoughts in alignment with possibilities rather than conclusions. Danielle Marie, who wrote the 4 agreements, the one of the agreements, they're all important, but the one agreement he says is resist getting into conclusion. When you get into conclusion, you stop the idea of possibilities. And our 17-year-old, Selena, I can't believe she's 17, yesterday she was 2. But she's going to college next year, and she wants to be a scientist. And she's going to go into nanotechnology and all kinds of research. And so she has all of these forthright arguments that she comes in with about science, and you can't believe anything until it's proven. And being 17, and of course, knowing everything, I saw a license plate frame once that said, I only hire 17-year-olds because they know everything. I think we're all 17 once. I'm sure I speak for all of us. We all used to be a little bit headstrong, so I'm not faulting her. It's just her age. But Audubon and I were watching this program last night on science, and it was one of those Nova programs, and it was talking about this theory of something in addition to creationism and evolutionism, that is it possible that aliens came here and that we were a colony of other aliens from different planets. And Selena works at Starbucks, and she came in at 10:30 after she got off of her shift, and we were in the last 10 minutes of the program. And fortunately I had the titles on so I could see what they were saying, because I couldn't hear it, because the moment she came in she was like, and this is science, this is science, and she just, she was destroying everything and just, going at it, and we were sitting there. And I said, honey, keep your mind open to possibilities. I said, I'm not saying this is true. We're watching it because there are some people that are theorizing possibilities. I said, she goes, well, they're all ridiculous. And I said, sweetheart, I said, they're all PhDs. And they work with NASA. And they're all different. And I would think these are people that you would give some kind of credibility to. And I said, not one of them is saying this is the absolute truth. They're all saying possibility. There is circumstantial evidence that suggests possibilities. And whether you have a scientific mind or a journalistic mind or an accounting mind, it doesn't matter. What's important is that we keep our mind open to possibilities. And I said, what if you could just accept that this is possible? Isn't it possible that creation and evolution are actually somehow intertwined and they are one and the same? At some point in time, we got created. It may not necessarily be in accordance with the creationism theory of the Bible, and we did evolve, although it may not necessarily be in alignment with Darwin's evolutionary theory. But what if there was some kind of thing that happened that juxtaposes and brings the two together? What if there was some kind of point of origin, which there had to be, of course, and then following it, some kind of evolution? I don't know what that is. And I don't think anybody here would espouse to know what that is. But we can entertain all the possibilities of what it could be. And the more we open our minds, the more we're willing to see all the different ways it could be. And Selena further went on to say, we haven't got any proof. And she said, people used to think demons made people sick. And I said, well, they thought they had proof. You know, they would see somebody sick, they would see somebody that looked odd, to them that was proof. And I said, this is the same thing. You're taking things as proof only because you haven't seen other possibilities. And we end up getting into a mom and daughter debate, and I end up pulling rank in the end and telling her she had an attitude. I still have my mother's privileges. Sorry, Selena. But it did actually remind me always, always to think in realms of possibility. So how did we get here? Do we know? You know, this one program also talked about, you know, time travel. Maybe we weren't seeds of aliens. Maybe we are seeds of our own self coming back to see us in time travel and fixing it differently. We don't know what the answer is. But let's have fun exploring it. And as you go through your daily life and you think about, how did I get here? How do I improve my health? How do I improve my relationships? How do I improve the situation of my life? How do I manifest a job? How do I get better health? The same principle applies. Stay in the mindset of possibilities. The minute you'd start saying, I can't get a job in this field because I'm too old, because I'm too young, because I'm overeducated, because I'm undereducated, because I'm a man, because I'm a woman, because they don't like people with bald hair or too long hair or blue eyes or brown eyes. The minute you start getting into conclusion, you start taking a wealth of possibilities and doing this to it, piece by piece by piece, until you get it down to something like this. And you've got possibilities down to the smallest nutshell that even the universe can't get in there and break open that nutshell because you've wound it so tightly. I remember that my parents and my sisters always used to say as I was growing up, they used to tease me that I was such an optimist. And they would say, oh, you always say everything is possible. But I did. And I love that. I would always say, well, it's possible. It could happen. You never know. It could happen. And I've spent my life using the it could happen philosophy. And I now look at everything in the world and I see peace can happen. Honest government can happen. People in the world having enough food to eat every day, every single person, can happen. Integrity can happen. No one's free will ever being violated and being completely intact every day can happen. Free energy can happen. Getting rid of all of the pollution can happen. Cleaning up our seas and our land can happen. Repairing the ozone can happen. Utopia can happen. Would you rather believe it can't? Why would you? Isn't it nicer to believe that you can? And not only is it nicer, does it help you go through a day with all of this incredible optimism and lightheartedness and thinking in realms of possibilities that expand beyond your imagination because you don't put any limits on them. But are you willing to consider that by being in a mindset of possibility, you allow for creation of those things to happen? So not only are you willing to accept them, but by virtue of accepting that they're possible, do you allow them to be created? The universe can only work within the confines of the tools that we allow it to be present. When we say that can't happen, the universe cannot create something that we say cannot be. It can only create something that can be. And when you look at all the different planets and the galaxies and the nebulas and the energy that's out there, anything is possible. Absolutely anything. All life forms. All forms of travel. Life forms living in different kinds of environments. Absolutely anything is possible. I can't think of one thing that's impossible. And that opens up my heart and opens up my mind. And as I go through my day, and if somebody's bothering me, or if I see something that seems insurmountable, I stop sometimes. Sometimes I obsess a little bit still. But for the most part, I can stop and say, I don't know all the answers to this, but I believe an answer is possible. And the minute I pause and I state possibility, usually within 24 hours, sometimes within even 2 seconds, a solution appears. Something seemingly sometimes so obvious, but for some reason I couldn't see it, and sometimes not so obvious, sometimes something I would never have thought of. Or the phone will ring and somebody will offer something or say something that triggers it. But the minute I say, I don't know how, and that's key. I don't know how, but I believe in some way, shape, or form this is possible. And by opening up that, all of a sudden, the universe has full range, absolutely full range, to show me ways that it is possible. And it always does. I know I'm going to get better from this cold as soon as my body has decided I've gotten enough rest. And I can fight my body and say, come on, I can take all the essential oils, I can do all the meditation, and I talk to it, but I just went, okay, I get it. It's a biological organ and it needs rest. I've been overdoing it, and I'm just going to let it get the rest that it needs. And I almost considered getting us up this morning, but this is my favorite thing, so I didn't. So I'm here. But I'm not contagious, I promise, because unless some of you are overworking. Anybody overworking here? Anybody burning the midnight oil? Because you could get my cold if you're working too hard. But it would be my fault.
We won't believe you.
I love the work that I do. The work that I do is expanding possibilities and creating things. And it's a beautiful world to live in. It gets more fun than every day. And as we call in our guides and our guardian angels and our teachers, the more we open our mind to possibility, the more teachers will show up to help us. And that's really all you have to do is decide it's possible. If there's something in your life right now, a relationship, a friendship, a family member, a job situation, a financial situation, any kind of frustration that seemingly seems so impassable to get beyond. All you have to do is say, I don't know how, I don't know what the answer is, but I believe peace is possible. And just in that affirmation that something is possible, you will start to see the things coming in that get revealed to you on how that's possible. And it will open up, I promise. Any questions? Yeah, Pearl?
Allow, believe, and create is a wonderful mantra.
Yeah.
that I've been involved with for a while, and it's just what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's the allowance part is I think is in conjunction with the possibilities, allowing things to come in. But to
ABC.
me, go ahead.
It's an ABC.
Yeah,
Allow, believe, and create.
allow, believe, and
So
create.
it's easy to remember.
Yeah. Anybody else, any questions or comments? No. We have so many people here. Yes, Dan?
Just briefly, I don't want to talk to death, but just what it strikes me of is it's all about expansiveness versus contraction, which is all
Exactly.
where we really, really want to be coming from.
Exactly. Possibilities is expansion, conclusion is the opposite, yeah.
Feeling like
Exactly.
we know everything, and it just pushes everything else away.
That's right, it's expansive thinking. And once the mind, what's the phrase, once the mind has been expanded, it can never go back to its original size.
Or another favorite of mine is a mind is like a parachute. It only works if it's open.
I like that one.
I don't remember who quoted that.
I like that one.
But it's good.
Yeah, it is good.
That's true, that's true. If your mind is a parachute, you don't open it, you're in trouble. I'm going to pass the baton over to Esther because I'm having trouble breathing now. So. Esther, welcome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and the area in holistic health and spirituality that you work in, and let's share your topic today. Do you want to just use this mic, or do you want to just...
She wants a sanitary wipe first.
No, I didn't touch that one. I didn't touch that one.
Can you guys hear me? Is this good?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm fairly new to California. I'm here 2 years from the East Coast. Been an East Coast girl my whole life. There's a lot that I do. We wear a lot of hats, yes, in our life, right? One moment we're a parent, if we're a parent, teacher, healer, we do a lot of different things. So some of the things that I do is I'm a performer, I'm an actor and a dancer. I'm also an author. I have like 3 books over there. Never thought I'd be an author, although I loved writing from the time I was about yay big. That wasn't in my mindset, but I kept my possibilities open. What a great segue. And in fact, I actually wrote my first book in 4th grade. Never did anything with it, but I did win some stuff in elementary school for it. And still, I was like, no, I'm going to be on Broadway and films and that kind of thing. I studied a lot of yoga. I teach yoga, I teach meditation, I teach all forms of movement. Everything from, I was talking to Vansel, who's a dancer, everything from improv to structured dance like ballet and musical theater and all of that. And what I do is I actually take all of the above, the movement, I've studied also a lot of psychology and philosophy, so I take the movement, the psychology, and how great that Reverend Danielle was saying, how we hold, our body tells us everything, absolutely everything. And if something's going on, it's because of a condition that our thoughts, or something that we're doing and thinking that's causing our body to say, whoa, wake up, what's going on, And so what I do is I bring that through some exercises and through movement to help you just become aware of what your body is telling you. And if that works for you, great. And if it doesn't, you can have a possibility to change it. So that in a nutshell is what I do. My latest project, which I'm really excited about, is I'm actually touring the country. I'm going to different women's shelters and donating my book, telling my story, and doing a little bit of yoga, movement, meditation, so a tiny bit of that workshop that I had mentioned with them. And also giving them an opportunity to be part of my new podcast called Voices of Women, where how many of you have ever felt like you needed to say something and nobody was listening, and you just kind of felt invisible or unacknowledged, whether you were wanting to talk to one person or you were talking to a crowd and you were just like, nobody's hearing me. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Well, I know I felt like that many, many times in my life. And this Voices of Women podcast is an opportunity to be heard, to be acknowledged. And I'm opening it up to these women in the shelters because they really feel that. They feel that now. They really feel invisible. And if I can give them, even for a moment, an opportunity to be heard in a safe environment so that their faces aren't seen, their names aren't being told, we don't say where they are, so they're safe. It's been profound what's been happening just because of that. But I'm opening it up to everybody because I feel we all have something to say. And if you say it and you're heard, that's a really great place to start healing and to start growing and to start expanding. So that's the work that I'm doing right now. Would you guys like to hear a little bit of my story as to why I'm doing what I'm doing?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Awesome. We all like stories. I talk a lot about stepping into your power. And one of the things that I've learned, and I've learned this from a very young age, but I didn't really know what to do with it, was that if you think in a certain way, it's going to dictate what you do, and it's going to dictate your results. Do you find that to be true? Mm-hmm. And when I realized that, it was the beginning of shifting how I thought, which was the beginning which shifted my results. I grew up with a severely abusive father. He almost killed me 3 times in my life. When I was 7, my mother got sick. She had a stroke. It was her 2nd stroke. And by the time she came home, I was close to 9 years old, I became her caregiver. So, which meant I, bathed her, I cooked for her, I did the laundry. I mean, I literally did pretty much everything that a mother would actually do for a child. And so talk about feeling no power, have a little bit of not a little bit, a lot of a crazy father, and a very sick mother. And I felt that I had no power, no choice in my life. When I was 14, my father came home. He tried to convince me that I shouldn't go to school anymore and I should basically work for his Amway business, the rest of my life. And I told him no. I actually stood up for myself. And he went into a wild rage and started to choke me. That was his way of abuse, one of the 3 or 4 different ways he liked to abuse me. And it got to a point where I actually almost passed out. And just before that happened, he let go and he started to walk or run out of the house. And I actually yelled back at him and I said, "Why don't you finish the job?" And that, of course, made him even more crazy. He ran back to me and choked me even harder. And my mother started yelling. And he kicked the wheelchair and she hit the wall so hard that I actually thought she was going to fall out. She had no control over her body. And just as that happened, he let go again, and then this time he ran out. And I'm sitting there, and I can't even cry because my throat hurts so bad. But I looked at my mother, and I'm like, this has to end. This is unacceptable. And my neighbor upstairs heard what was going on. He knew about the abuse, but everybody felt powerless again as to what to do. They didn't know what the possibilities were. So I ran up to him and I said, "I don't know what to do." He's like, "I think you should call the cops." And I was like, "Call the cops on my father? Really? Like, isn't that the worst thing you could possibly do?" And he said, "Well, it's either that or probably next time he'll actually succeed in killing you." And so I said, okay, well, I was crying and I just had no control over my body. And he helped me. He called the cops. He spoke for me on my behalf. And my mother was okay with it. She said, "Yeah, go ahead and you need to protect yourself." And the cops came. They were very supportive. They kind of coached me as to what to do, what to say. And a few days later, I ended up in the courthouse in order to press charges to my father. Right next to me was a rabbi of the community who actually acted as my psychologist. How many of you know someone who looks at the world through pink sunglasses, besides Reverend Daniel? Right? Right? So he was that guy. He's like, everything's going to be fine, no problem. You're doing the right thing. So he was an ultra-religious Orthodox Jewish man who supported this, which actually goes, according to most rabbis, against the religion. The detectives, again, were coaching me, or the prosecutors, or whatever you wanted. I don't know names, but I was really young. They were coaching me as to what to say. They explained to me what would happen. And I said, oh, okay, I was really scared. I'm like, I can't believe what I'm doing. And I'm in this big, scary building, you know. I go into the courtroom, and to the left, you know, in the front over there was my father, next to these, what in my eyes, what looked like big, huge, animalistic bullies with like big tattoos. They were like 7 feet tall, you know, like almost the biker, but you know what, the stereotypical biker scary guys, you know. And they were all in chains, hands and feet. How many of you have seen Les Mis? It's like one of my favorite. And I look at my father, and my father was like shaking, and he was really scared. And I look at my father in chains, and all of a sudden, my perspective completely changes. And I was like, wow, my father's not bad. He's sick. He's very, very sick, but he's not bad. And it's funny, I actually left out one detail. Right before I went into the courtroom, my principal, I went to a very religious school, my principal comes up to me. He wasn't even there. He came just to say this one thing. He goes, if you don't drop the charges, you're not welcome back to school. And I was like, oh my God. Now, he didn't know the story. He knew that my father was in jail, and he probably heard through the grapevine that it was because of me. But he didn't know why, I didn't know anything. And so my rabbi with the pink sunglasses on, he's like, it's all right, no problem. Drop the charges, it's okay. But I'm looking at my father, you know, and I realized that if I drop the charges, it's going to be all right. He's scared out of his mind, and he doesn't belong in jail. I realized at that moment that he doesn't belong in jail. What he needs is a doctor. What he needs is a medical, a mental facility to help him. He doesn't need jail. That's not going to help him. And at that moment, I started to shift my perspective of my situation. And I stopped feeling powerless, and I stopped feeling helpless. And I did drop the charges. And that was the very, very beginning of when I realized that if I change the way I look at things, the things you look at change. And from that moment on, I started to find ways to get my power back.
I just want to interrupt for a second, because I want to acknowledge the power of that statement. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I wanted to just give that another listen to. Is such a powerful statement. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank Wayne Dyer. He's a...
Was that Wayne Dyer?
That was a Wayne Dyer one. I can't take credit for it. Yeah. I would love to, but yeah. No, but it's so true. It's so true. And whenever I do the same thing, that when I feel a moment of powerlessness, I ask myself, what are the other possibilities? It's such a great segue, because it's always, we only see one tiny part of things, you know, but when you really open up, it's just amazing what happens. And, you know, I ended up going through a lot more what most would deem tragedies after that, but every single time I knew that there was a different story, and I can get out of this, and I can, you know, grow from this. And it was funny because I was in Skid Row last week visiting one of the shelters, women's shelters, and there was a woman there. She was like, you know, I thought I hit rock bottom ending up here. You know, I thought it can't get worse than this. And then one day, someone gave me a few t-shirts, and just like that, I decided to start cutting it up. And she goes, you know, she's a really big woman, and she's like, yeah, I always felt uncomfortable with fashion, never felt pretty. But I started cutting it up and making it into this fashion thing. And then she started cutting up these t-shirts and giving it to her friends. And before she knew it, she actually made a fashion show on Skid Row.
Nice.
And she filmed it, and she was so excited that she actually gave me the film, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to help you make a fashion line. And she goes, I didn't know that this was a possibility, because what could happen out here on Skid Row? And it was just such a beautiful thing. She goes, now I realize that everything's going to go up from here. I can make a fashion show here. I can do anything.
Right.
You know, and that's really been true for me. That, you know, I moved from the East Coast away from New York City, which is the theater capital of the world, and the book capital of the world. And what did I do? In suburb California, I live in Costa Mesa, and it's very suburban for me. I published my book. It actually became a best-selling book on Amazon the day I released it. And I'm working on a one-woman show in California. I was at an event yesterday, and I was talking about my one-woman show, and one lady goes, I never heard of a one-woman show. Is that a new concept? And I'm like, really? Oh my God, you got to go to New York. But I'm doing it here. In fact, I ended up collaborating just like that. It just happened that I put a little description of my one-woman show on a meetup, and a writer, director contacts me. He's like, hey, do you need any help with it? And I'm like, yeah. Turns out he was one of the writers of Frasier. He's like a network writer, and he's done a few one-woman shows, one-person shows. And he was a dancer, and there's going to be some dance in it too. We're just trying to figure that part out. On the West Coast. Who would think on the West Coast, you know? And that's because I came here with just an open mind. I was just like, I don't even know why I'm coming, you know? I knew I needed a shift, and there are many reasons, and if you read my book, you'll understand a little bit why. But I just stayed open. I was just like, I don't know why. I don't have all the reasons. I also don't really know what the ending is, and that's actually the fun part. You know, I got really into mountain climbing a few years ago, and what I do is on the summit, I have someone film me do a dance, because I like to, you know, put dance and nature together. And how awesome is it to dance on top of a mountain, especially if it's an altitude mountain after 20 odd hours of hiking or whatever, you know? And I remember my first mountain I did that was Pikes Peak in Colorado. How many of you guys know Pikes Peak? And I chose Pikes Peak because, number one, I knew it was the most well-traveled, so I'd be safe. And also there was a campsite right somewhere about halfway up, maybe a little less than halfway up. And so I'd have somewhere to sleep where I didn't have to actually carry a tent with me. I was carrying about this big of a pack. For a little girl, that was a lot. And it was my first climb, so I figured that was the safest. So I'm climbing the mountain, and I remember there was this really fit young guy coming down, and I was like, hey, how is the summit? He goes, yeah, I have to turn away. It just was, that 16-stair thing was just too much for me. And I'm like, okay. He wasn't even carrying a pad. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do this. That's all right. Going a little further, and every, 20 minutes, I'm literally taking the pack off. I'm like dying. I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this. This is retarded. Like, who am I to think I could do a mountain climb, right? 98 degrees outside. Oh. So I'm climbing a little more, and then this old man is coming down the mountain. I'm like, wow. Man, Colorado's ridiculous. And he goes, respect the mountain. If the mountain tells you to turn back, you listen or you die.
That's intense.
And I'm looking and I'm like, I really needed to hear that, thanks. And he goes, yeah. And then he just walks on, and I'm like, is that a message for me to turn back? Like, what do I do? Oh my God. And then I'm going a little further, and there's this young guy hanging out on this big rock, and he looks at me, he goes, so, first time, huh? Yeah. How did you know? I'm like, is it written on my face? He's like, yeah, kind of. So, he goes, yes. I'm like, I'm making a kind of a documentary on my journey. I'm going to do a dance on the top. Really? Okay, what's your name? And I give him my YouTube channel. I get to bar camp. I'm explaining, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this now. By the way, I happen to be a type 1 diabetic. When you do altitude climbs, it affects your sugar tremendously. I got to bar camp, I'm sleeping, where the campgrounds, I'm sleeping and I wake up from low sugar and I'm like, this is awesome. If I live on this mountain, I don't need insulin anymore. This is great. I'm eating like my cookies and all of that. Anyway, I wake up early in the morning and I'm like, I'm going to attempt to do the summit. And the lady who runs the bar camp goes, you're not going to attempt, you're going to do the summit. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm going to let go of those fears that were translated by those people, and I'm just going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And as soon as I said that, that was like a second, this big, tall soldier, he was a soldier, starts walking, and I'm carrying only the water. I leave my, the big pack at the campgrounds. Ma'am, do you need a little help? I'm like, yes! Can you carry my water? He's like, absolutely, sure. So we're walking up the mountain, we're getting higher altitude. Of course, I've never done it, and what's my fear? Is altitude sickness, right? The whole way, all he's talking about are the signs of altitude sickness. And the steps and how it, and I'm like, by the time I get to the 16 stairs, he looks at me, and he's like, are you all right, man? And I'm like, I think I'm a little lightheaded, but yeah, I think I can make it. I might have some slight altitude sickness. It was my mind. It was totally my mind. But he helps me, and I'm like, I know I'm holding up. His pals were waiting for him on the top, and he was going to drive down. I was like, if you want, you give me the water. I know I'm holding up. I held him up by at least 2 hours. And he's like, no, ma'am, I really don't want you to die. So I kept getting that. It was really interesting. A fear of mine. It was my own fears, I make it to the summit. It took a while. Meanwhile, there's this 14-year-old who's literally skipping to the top. She, passes me. She started, hours behind me and is just, literally skip. Hey, do you need help? I'm like, There was an altitude runner who ends up way ahead of me, and I stop and I'm like, when did you start this run? He goes, about 2.5 hours ago. And it took me 2 days, And I'm like, see, that's another thing. What do? We start comparing ourselves to other people. I'm not an altitude runner. I'm not a 14-year-old kid. I'm me. And I've never done this. This is a huge win for me. And so I go through those 16 stairs, and I make it to the summit. And it was awesome. That was my first climb. And so what I do is I have the 14-year-old and her friend film me dance. And of course I thank the soldier. I'm like, hey, can you dance with me? He's like, no, I'll just watch it. But that's where I learned we only get to the summit step by step. And we also get to the summit of our life when we let go of our ideas and conditions and just keep ourselves open. I do that YouTube documentary, and that dude that was sitting on the rock, he writes a comment and he goes, I'm so glad you made it out alive.
Nice.
So he did exist, he wasn't an illusion.
Oh, no. All of these were real people. It was amazing. It was my internal mind and fears and all of that stuff showing up in real people. Yeah. In fact, I'll end with one last thing. I went through a 14-year emotionally abusive marriage. And I tried to leave that marriage 5 times. And each time, my fears showed up in the form of a rabbi telling me that I'm not going to make it, a woman friend saying, how are you going to survive? All of these people showing up as my own fears. And as soon as I said, I'm done, I'm completely finished, those people weren't around. And I completely revamped my life. And I found a way to step into my power. So that's my story. And I don't know if any of it related to anything what you guys are going through, but I hope that if your mind is talking to you and helping you take yourself out, because we take ourselves out all the time, right? How many of you have tried to start a business and you have a real cushy job? And I mean, I actually recently worked with a man like that. He was San Diego, corporate America, real cushy job, you know, and he'd been dying to start his own business as a life coach, scared out of his mind, but he knew that that's his road. But he was so scared to leave that cushy job, and all of these people started showing up and telling him why he's true. See, we will be true to whatever it is we're going to create our own truth, but we can decide what that truth is based on how open we are. So,
Well, that was very inspiring.
thank you.
Do you have any
I do
questions
have
for her?
some of my books in the back. If anyone is interested, you can also get it on Amazon.
Any questions for Esther? Or just comments or kudos or?
It's so true that when we face our fears, it's very empowering. When I was in Europe recently, I faced a lot of my fears during that journey. I was alone, I was lost, I didn't know the language, I was in a foreign